Frutiger Aero is a consumer aesthetic prevalent from the mid-2000s to early 2010s that can trace its roots back to operating systems like Windows Longhorn, Windows Vista, and Mac OS X. Many of the aesthetic's motifs can be seen in the Windows Aero design language, humanist sans-serif fonts, glassy window borders, nature-inspired desktop wallpapers, and rich tertiary colors. But Frutiger Aero proliferated beyond the internet, finding its way into consumer electronics and the built environment. So Sebastien, are you a fan of Frutiger Aero?
I definitely enjoy it as a moment in user interface history. I've subscribed to the Frutiger Aero subreddit for fun, but I wouldn't say I'm as obsessed as some of the people that we'll talk about later.
As obsessed as the rest of Generation Z?
Yeah.
Because I don't think the audience knows how old you are. So you're 24, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Almost
so you're
25.
squarely a Zoomer. I'm a Zillennial who kind of wants to conceptualize myself as Zoomer leaning, but I probably seem old to you.
No, you definitely are. I think you're Zoomer leaning in the way that I'm millennial leaning. But I am I'm born in 2001, so I'm as peak Zoomer as you can get probably.
You know, Zoomers, though, they do really love Frutiger Aero.
Yeah.
At the moment, if you look at Google Trends, Frutiger Aero is at its peak. 100 in terms of search volume. And hopefully we kind of figure out, through doing this episode, why exactly it's so popular. Part of it is simply because it's the 20-year cycle. It's been about 20 years since Frutiger Aero was prevalent, and now people are rediscovering it.
Right.
But I think it's also because Zoomers had, firsthand experience with the aesthetic in their childhoods. Do you remember using some of these Frutiger Aero products when you were a kid?
Yeah, it totally represents my earliest memories on the internet, Windows XP and that early Mac OS aesthetic. And I don't know, I think that, Zoomers are obsessed with Y2K aesthetics right now because of the 20-year cycle.
Yeah.
But it also is just, the internet kind of stinks right now. And it's nice to think back to when it seemed like a more fun, innocent, fresh place. And this is kind of the aesthetic of that early internet.
Yeah, because during the period of relevancy for Frutiger Aero, that was when there were still children's spaces online.
Right.
CartoonNetwork.com, Nick.com. There were all these forums for a variety of IPs you could go on as a kid.
Right.
And I was actually thinking this week, there's this card game I played when I was a kid in the 2000s called Chaotic. It was kind of the fourth big TCG.
Mm-hmm.
It was announced recently, it was relaunching. But as part of it, they re-debuted their website, and it gave me flashbacks to what it looked like back in the day. And I was like, oh yeah, that was Frutiger Aero too.
Right.
It just has this glossiness to it. It has subtle reflections in the user interface. And I mean, yeah, I didn't realize it, but for me too, it is actually kind of associated with childhood.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very whimsical. I don't know.
Yeah. So back to Frutiger Aero, we're going to start with the CARI origins of it. Because as a consumer aesthetic, this is an aesthetic that was identified by the Consumer Aesthetics Research Institute. And this one was first identified by one of the founding members, Sofi Xian. She is someone who's been organizing these CARI labs that I've been attending. There are these monthly meetings where you can present on some of your ideas. I presented twice now.
Mm-hmm.
And Sofi is a researcher, cultural theorist, and multimedia artist currently based in Rotterdam. And she initially did the foundational research for Frutiger Aero by doing some in-person, what she described archaeology, looking at old tech and thrift stores in Seattle. And then also looking extensively through stock image archives. That's where she found a lot of the original images that people saw that then inspired them to go out and seek more, say in the Frutiger Aero Facebook group.
Yeah. I can't believe that this is a CARI term. That was
Really?
Yeah, because I can. I've learned so much about CARI since knowing you, but it's not an organization that I was ever aware of before that. And I've known this term for a very long time, so it's cool that there's kind of a collision of worlds there with that.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the biggest consumer aesthetics that has come out of the work that CARI has done. We're going to talk about Neo-Aero at the end, sort of the modern interpretation of Frutiger Aero. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this has been one of their biggest quote-unquote discoveries.
Right.
But as for Frutiger Aero's etymology, so according to the CARI page for the aesthetic. The name is a combination of Windows Vista's design guideline Aero and Adrian Frutiger's eponymous font, Frutiger, which originally inspired Vista's default font, Sego UI.
Yeah.
Did I say Sego right?
I think I did. Sego?
I think it's Sego.
Sego, sure.
Yeah. We can talk more about Adrian Frutiger in Windows Vista a little later in the episode, but just keep that in mind as you're listening. So then the foundational research, it was done by Sofi Xian, and later she, along with some of the other CARI members, she created a Facebook group, and that was created in January 2018. And then people started to post images that they were finding or they remembered from their personal lives that fit into Frutiger Aero. And then it started to be collectively discovered to some degree. But I've learned through attending CARI labs and talking to, the various people at CARI that it's a misinterpretation to think that most of the CARI aesthetics were identified collectively. The foundational research that core members did is often more important than all of these other images that were loosely collected by everyone else.
Right.
The foundational research really defined things. I've seen this with various aesthetics where there are some that I've managed to get access to. Most of those Facebook groups have been closed. They don't want new activity going on anymore, but the ones I've been able to enter, a lot of what members of the public were posting was kind of a misinterpretation.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to kind of look at something and be like, oh, that reminds me of this, but to be the people to actually define it, that's why I guess they're not nitpicky, but they're the ones trying to draw the guidelines.
Yeah, it can be kind of challenging sometimes when I'm doing episodes on consumer aesthetics that they've identified and I'd put together Pinterest boards, trying to challenge myself to find images that are new, but also that would be acceptable in their eyes. You really have to be sure of what you're looking at, know the origins in order to say it's of this period of relevance, it really fits in.
Yeah. I mean, we did the Clear Craze episode a couple weeks ago, and we talked about UI a little bit, and it kind of creeps into Frutiger Aero. But there's a fine line between what is inspired by just clear technology and what is truly Frutiger Aero. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's a little bit of overlap, but overall, I would say the technology in Frutiger Aero is opaque. It's usually white, like say the Nintendo Wii.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. But now we can talk to Frutiger Aero's actual origins. We're moving on from the CARI origins. So the big sort of thing that gets traced back to Windows Longhorn. So Longhorn was the code name of a Windows operating system that never actually got released, but they began developing it in 2001. The product never hit the market because it was too ambitious. It started to get scope creep, but it was later incorporated many of its attributes, its features into Windows Vista, which launched in 2007.
Yeah.
And I didn't grow up I grew up in a Mac household. I was never a Windows kid. And so I have no distinct memories of the different Windows operating systems. They all kind of seem the same to me.
I think Windows Vista is the last one that I, once it got to Windows 7, I just kind of lost track of all that. But Windows Vista, I think, was so long lasting that I definitely have memories using it at my grandparents' house or friends' houses that were Windows houses. But
yeah. I mean, it looks visually a little nostalgic to me.
Yeah.
It actually has more of a design flair to it than I was kind of expecting. Because to me, Windows products have always been very quotidian, ubiquitous, kind of boring to look at. But on the CARI page for Frutiger Aero, they have this one screenshot of what Windows Vista looked like when it launched.
Right.
And it's it has so many amazing features. It has this really cool desktop wallpaper, the Aurora Borealis, these glassy window borders for the menus. I think that's the coolest feature.
Yeah, it's not just the chrome at the top. It goes all the way around, and it's it fogs the background and stuff like that. It's pretty it's kind of wild compared to what we use today. But this is coming right off the heels of Windows XP, which Windows XP was extremely colorful and bright. The bar at the bottom, the menu bar at the bottom, was bright blue. That's just was the color of the Windows XP bar at the bottom. So I think that at this time, Windows was no stranger to just kind of being a little wacky with their design, even though they're kind of viewed as a bit, at this time, if you think about 2000s Windows versus 2000s Macs, they seem a little bit more bland compared to now. But yeah, I don't know. Their operating system was always a little weird.
Yeah, I heard Windows XP, their design language or their design at the time being described as being cartoonish, which I didn't actually look up pictures, but the design language for Windows Vista was a little less cartoonish. They transitioned into Windows Aero, so this is one half, of where Frutiger Aero gets its name. It's an acronym that stands for authentic, energetic.